Libby Jackson of the UK Space Agency joins me now. Just why has he spent so long up there, Libby?
We haven't had astronauts or cosmonauts spend a year in space for quite some years now. The Russians used to do it. But it's the first time that we've really sort of brought modern technology, modern medicine to bear on it. So we're looking at what happens to the human body with a year. And that's going to be very important for understanding what would happen if we were perhaps to venture to Mars. But it's also got lots of things it can tell us about the human body, which helps us back here on Earth.
We had Commander Chris Hadfield here in the studio some 6 months ago, sometime last year, and he was saying his eyesight had got worse by virtue of being in space. And their height changes. I thought they got shorter, but they get taller first, isn't that right?
Yeah, your spine elongates. Because you're floating, you can't feel the effects of gravity as you're in free fall around the Earth. So your muscles weaken, your bones dissolve back into your body, and everything stretches out because you're not fighting gravity. So after 6 months, we know what those effects are like. After a year, it's even worse. So we're looking to see if the countermeasures that we're putting in place, as things like a skin suit's being developed here in the UK to see if that could help. But the ones that Scott's been following, we're looking to see if those help and see if after a year he's still fit and healthy.
And what's unique about Scott Kelly is he is an identical twin, so they can measure him, literally, against his brother.
Yeah, we've got a ground control here on Earth. Very unusual. You've got a pair of identical twins who were both NASA astronauts. Mark Kelly stayed back on Earth. He's retired now. But yeah, they've got a series of about 12 different experiments that they're looking at just on Scott and Mark to see what space has done. And it's great. We've got the same gene pool, identical twins.
I won't ask you to tell me which one Scott is on that. So it's essentially what we can learn from his long time in space, because he's been up there before. In total, he's had, what, a year and a half, something like that?
Yeah, Scott's now, I think, the longest-serving American astronaut in terms of total duration that he's spent in space.
But essentially what we can learn is physiological, with a view to longer missions to Mars and further than that.
If we're to send humans to Mars, the journey there can take 6 to 9 months. And when you get there, you've got to be able to work, you've got to be able to walk. After a year in space, you come back, you are weaker, despite all the exercise you're doing. It can be hard to walk and faint. You might faint when you first land and so on. So we're looking at these things to see, you know, what can we learn?
And what now for Scott Kelly and other astronauts? Do they remain as guinea pigs for the rest of their lives, effectively?
Scott and Mikhail Kornienko, who are coming back after spending a year there, and indeed all other crew who return to Earth, they will undergo a series of medical tests now and throughout. We keep an eye on them. They've had increased radiation because they've been up there. So we're always keeping an eye on them.
Looking after them.
Indeed.